The Alexander Povetkin Mariusz Wach fight has just finished. 12th round KO for Alexander Povetkin. The KO came because of a cut to the eye of Mariusz Wach. God, you'd be disappointed if you bet Alexander Povetkin to win on points. I know a few people did have that bet, and my heart goes out to you, because Mariusz Wach showed his toughness, showed his chin, showed his grit and determination, and really did look on course to go to 12 rounds, you know. Although Povetkin was very dominant in this fight, at no stage did Mariusz Wach look like he was going to get knocked out. At no stage really did he look like he was going to get stopped. But the cut really opened up in the 12th round, and the referee decided to call it off. I would assume because Mariusz Wach was so clearly behind on the judges' scorecards and the fight wasn't competitive, the ref decided that the time was right to stop the fight. Pretty much, had it gone to points, I'm sure it would have been scored 12-0, 11-1, 10-2, something of that nature. You know, it was a very dominant performance from Alexander Povetkin in that sense. However, let's break it down a bit further. You know, whilst Alexander Povetkin won the fight with a bit of ease, you have to ask, what did he actually beat in the form of Mariusz Wach? I mean, what Mariusz Wach brings to the table is firstly the fact that he's a very big guy. He's 6'7.5", so not a dissimilar size to the likes of Deontay Wilder, Vladimir Klitschko, and he's also got that amazing chin. But really, Mariusz Wach looked very slow in there and very plodding. He didn't have any foot speed. He didn't have any hand speed. I know if you look at his resume, there's some evidence to suggest that he can punch a bit. But at this level, he didn't seem to carry much power, if anything. And for me, it's probably due to the fact that at this level, he was struggling to land his punches. You know, the speed just wasn't there. The accuracy just wasn't there. Early on, I thought Wach gave Povetkin one or two little problems, primarily due to his size. You know, he got the jab going early on and, you know, tried to keep Povetkin at range. And Mariusz Wach landed some okay shots, you know, in the first and second round. I think the commentators on Box Nation gave him the first round, and I could certainly see there being an argument for that. Alexander Povetkin, for me, was slightly one-paced the first few rounds. Rounds 5, 6, 7, 8, he started to pick up a bit. You know, Mariusz Wach was getting tired. I think Mariusz Wach was getting frustrated. You know, he wasn't having much success. He was clearly falling behind in the fight. And Povetkin started to come on strong. The question for me is, was that more to do with Mariusz Wach weakening? And I think there's a possibility that was the case. Povetkin was getting low. You know, obviously he was low to begin with based on the fact he's so much smaller than Mariusz Wach. But he was bending low. He was dipping. He was trying to bob and weave, almost like a sort of Mike Tyson peekaboo style, and with his head movement he was able to get under the Wach jab, work his way inside, and then he'd typically throw a jab to the chest, and then he'd throw big looping punches, powerful hooks, overhand punches. I think on Box Nation, Barry Jones was describing it as a screwball type punch, and you can kind of see what he means, like coming out in at an odd angle, being hard to read, hard to predict. I must admit, in this fight, whilst Povetkin was very dominant and won by a wide margin over, let's be honest, a fairly credible, decent, tough opponent in Mariusz Wach, I wasn't overly convinced by Povetkin. I wasn't overly convinced. I mean, you got to factor in, the way I view Povetkin is he is a guy who can be outboxed. He was outboxed by Klitschko. To an extent, in my opinion, he was outboxed by Carlos Takam. But in the Carlos Takam fight, he was able to find the one-punch power to end the fight. And, you know, he's got by with that a lot recently. Manuel Charr, Carlos Takam, Mike Perez. My fear is when he steps up to the elite level of the game, can he be outboxed? And I do have some questions about that still after this fight. Mariusz Wach didn't outbox him, but Mariusz Wach showed some signs with his early success, with his jab, with his range, that Povetkin can be outboxed. And it comes back to that fundamental question, I'm afraid, which is, in the modern era of the heavyweight division, is a 6'2" heavyweight who likes to get inside the jab and throw hooks the right mould to be successful? I mean, if you look how limited Mariusz Wach is, how slow he is, how immobile he is, how basic his punch variety is, and then if you substitute in Tyson Fury, a guy who can fight southpaw and orthodox, a guy who can fight on his back foot and his front foot, a guy with an inside game, a guy who can punch to the body and has a real variety of punches in his armoury, you have to wonder, the trouble that was caused tonight by Mariusz Wach, how much would that be exacerbated by a Tyson Fury level fighter? Even Deontay Wilder, I know Deontay Wilder gets a lot of stick, and with Povetkin's power, Povetkin probably would be a favourite in that fight. But if you look at the performance Deontay Wilder put in against Bermane Stiverne, could you confidently say that Alexander Povetkin could outbox Wilder in that performance? Sure, he could knock him out. Sure, he could find that one punch. But what happens if he doesn't find a one punch? Like tonight against Mariusz Wach, when he was fortunate in many ways to have the fight stopped. I mean, could a guy like Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder outpoint him? Some people may think I'm being crazy, but let's be honest. Povetkin got badly outpointed by Vladimir Klitschko. Even if you take out the knockdowns Klitschko scored in that fight, it was 12-0. And the reason was because Klitschko was able to dominate the fight from range, because Povetkin was too small, and close Povetkin down on the inside. And whether you like Klitschko's tactics or not, it's a fact. He was effective and he closed him down on the inside, unsportsmanlike or not. Could a guy like Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder do the same? It's possible. It's possible. I think for me, the problem with Povetkin, potentially, as he moves up to the world level again, is just a lack of variety. He's quite predictable, isn't he? He comes forward, he throws hooks. I felt he was slightly slow. I didn't think it was the most athletic performance for him. It was head movement, under the jab to the chest, big hook. And you could kind of see it coming over and over again. And Wach, in many ways, was too limited to, to deal with it and to come up with a game plan to beat it. But Wach's defence, was unexceptional. He kept his hands high and kept his chin down. And what you'll notice is a lot of Povetkin's big looping punches were actually landing on arms or on gloves, It wasn't like a great boxing display. And for me, he was quite easy to read. A more sophisticated boxer like Tyson Fury, with more sort of tools in his armoury, more varieties with his game, would maybe have better movement, better foot speed, a more accurate jab that would be able to keep Povetkin off and, potentially close Povetkin down on the inside like Vladimir Klitschko did. So Alexander Povetkin, he's an exciting fighter. He comes forward, he throws a lot of lever, and he carries power. He's an interesting guy in the heavyweight division. Povetkin Fury, Povetkin versus Wilder, certainly interesting fights. As for Mariusz Wach, he's a credible opponent, but let's be honest, he just doesn't have the athleticism, he doesn't have the snap to his work, and he just doesn't have the skills to be a top 10 heavyweight or competing at that level. He would be an excellent fight for an up-and-coming boxer, Joseph Parker, Dillian Whyte, Anthony Joshua, an excellent fighter. Because he combines two things. He combines big height and big range, which I think young prospects need to experience, with an excellent chin. Someone like Anthony Joshua who's knocking someone out, he would get rounds against Mariusz Wach. Mariusz Wach's got an iron chin. So, for me, that's where I see Mariusz Wach in the division right now. I think the younger prospects should take those fights against Wach if they can get them. He's a beatable guy. To me, he doesn't have the offensive capability to beat serious ranked prospects, but he can test them in other ways. As for Povetkin, he goes marching on. It was a good performance. He won pretty much every round against a decent opponent who's only lost to Klitschko. I don't want to rip it out of him too much, but I still have doubts about Povetkin. They centre on, can he be outboxed? Can he be outjabbed? Can he be closed down? And is he too small in this era of gigantic heavyweights? Let me know your thoughts. How did you see this fight going? Many thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel. Please give me the thumbs up. I'd appreciate it.